Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here. We're back with another Honkai Star Rail video. I wanted to take a break, but Honkai Star Rail Hoyoverse decides to release Acheron signature Lightcone with the official stats, and that's when we can finally talk about it on the channel. Is it good? Can you use anything else if you don't want to pull this? Or how much better is it from the other options in the game? And is it versatile? We're going to talk about all of these on this channel, but let's first things first is dive deep into what is the most easiest and most straightforward thing to talk about first is the base stat of this Lightcone, which is the one thing that makes this Lightcone super good. 1058 HP, 635 attack. How does this compare to the rest? Not to worry, I have your back. I have a spreadsheet here that I've collated. This is of course done through our analytics. This is purely done by me. Data is collated by Maroof, so huge shout out to you as well. All these charts here and analytics that you see, whatever on the bottom, it's all done by us on the channel. That's kind of like what we are known for data analytics. So, along the passing shore, 635 attack, 1058 HP. I didn't really need the HP, I just wanted like another chart, so it's just two colors instead of one. But very interestingly, if you plot all the Lightcones in the game, along the passing shore, Acheron's signature Lightcone is one of two Lightcones with the highest base attack in the game. The other one, of course, being Imbibitor Lunae's Brighter Than the Sun Lightcone, but other than that, you really have everything else as slightly inferior in terms of the amount of stats. But looking at her Lightcone being like the highest out of all Lightcones isn't really helpful. What we want to do is narrow down into the Nihility Lightcones, and this is when you start to see a spread. Out of all of the Lightcones, hers is by far the clearest, the best. The second, like the next tier, is a whole 50 attack lower, which is almost like a 9 to 10% loss of base attack already straight up from the Lightcone, and that matters a lot because it scales off with attack percentage. Acheron is a character that scales with attack percentage, will likely use attack percentage. If you are using the boots as attack percentage and the link rope, that's already quite a large amount of attack percentage loss that you have if you use a slightly lower base attack. So, what are the four Lightcones, the other alternatives that come closest to the 635 stats? That is, of course, your four Nihility Lightcones that are currently in the game. There are 5-star. You have In the Name of the World, Weld signature, which is at 582. You have Incessant Rain, 582, this is Silverwolf signature. Patience is All You Need, Kafka signature at 582. And Reforged Remembrance, which is also at 582, Black Swan's signature. Now, other than that, if you take it out, let's say you don't talk about like the 5-star Lightcones because that's like kind of a bit expensive. If you look at the 4 stars, you can see the deviation. Only one single Lightcone is at 529, and even at 529, there's a 106 thereabouts attack lesser, which is almost a 20% loss just from base attack, not even counting the stats, which is very, very crazy. That Lightcone is not even a good Lightcone like a Good Night Sleep Well, which is a lot of people are talking about. This is We Will Meet Again. If I'm not wrong, this is a Battle Pass Lightcone as well, so you have to pay money for this to get the slightly 10% weaker stats. But anyways, this is the best 4-star. All of them else are all tied. All 6 of the Nihility 4 stars are all tied in terms of stats that we have here. You can see Good Night Sleep Well is at 476, which if you compare to the signature Lightcone, that's 150, almost 33%. Thereabouts less amount of attack. Good Night Sleep Well versus a signature. So you're already losing a massive amount of base attack for a character that scales with base attack and could use an attack percentage boot in some team compositions as well. If you are going up to like S2, Super in Position 1 and Eidolon 2, you likely might be running some kind of speed manipulator. In that case, the S1 likely will be very important here and there. So that is looking at some of the stats. Of course, HP is just really for show here. I wanted to show you more of like what we can do with this. If you like these kind of content, do check out our other guides on the channel, as well as I teach people like how to make these kind of charts on EOD money as well. Check it out if you're interested. Otherwise, let's go back into the main screen here. What is really impressive, now that we've seen how much difference there is to like what people say is the second best Good Night Sleep Well, which is also on the banner that you're pulling for, but we'll talk about that in a bit. This Lightcone here gives 36% crit damage as Super in Position 1. Why this is very good is not only does it rival, like for example, Zealer's 18% on Lightcone, which a lot of people say is very, very strong. At the same time, crit damage on a Nihility Lightcone is very rare. I think the only other crit rate gear that you have on Nihility Lightcone is Silverwolf's Lightcone, if I'm not wrong. And it's very, very few and far between. So giving this crit damage, very, very essential, very hard to come by in Nihility characters. Unfortunately, it also means that likely you're kind of like stuck with this on Acheron. I don't think it's going to be super versatile because not many other Nihility characters are pure DPS in nature that really care too much about this crit. A large proportion of the 5 stars we have in the game currently do scale a little bit with DOT. When the wearer hits an enemy, inflicts them with like this debuff empty bubbles that last 1 turn, triggered 1 time against each target for every attack the wearer launches. It deals 24% more damage to targets afflicted with empty bubbles, and the damage from the ultimate is also increased additionally by 24%. Now, the first thing I'm thinking about looking at this is they are trying to make these numbers kind of rival Superimposition 5 Good Night Sleep Well. For those of you who don't know, and that is where I want you to just snapshot this, so 24, 24, 36, we have a grand total. Let's just do very simply just additive, okay? I know it's not really additive when you have crit damage and other stuff in the game, when you have multipliers and whatnot, but let's just say it's for simplicity's sake, this is like 48 plus 36, that's like what, 84%? I want to go in the game engine right now, and I want to show you a light cone like Good Night and Sleep Well. Why a lot of people are thinking of this particular light cone, at Superimposition 5, you have a massive, let me just switch it for the sake of it appearing bigger on the screen, you have a 24% times 3. So that signature light cone for Acheron is like 24, 24, 36. This is 24, 24, 24 because it stacks up to 3 times. So you still get a 12% less, and on top of that, everything is multiplied by a much lower base attack, a 33% lower base attack as we calculated previously. So the difference that you're going to see between even an S5 Good Night Sleep Well and Acheron's signature light cone is very, very massive. And not to mention that this also has wind up time. You might not get straight away all 3 stacks of debuff right away. You might have to like build it up a little bit too and make sure that the debuffs last longer. But it shouldn't be too hard as well. I think this is a pretty good option. And since we are now on the topic in this game screen here, do I think overall, in long story short, I think that Acheron's light cone is like super, super good. Probably one of the characters that want to have a signature light cone similar to the character that we have like Jingyuan. Firstly, back then, before Dawn, nothing else really came close to this. Similarly, for the Nihility light cones, nothing else comes close to Beyond the Passing Shore. Passing on the along shore or something like that, but really there's no other light cone that comes too close to that. Okay, and at this point I think it's very, very nice to like segue into what is actually a good light cone for her. What are some alternatives? If you ask me, I don't think that light cone is going to be very flexible. Her signature light cone is not going to be usable on a lot of characters. Just stick it onto Acheron if you have it and don't move at all. Other than that, you are really tight, or like it's very tricky to recommend another light cone alternative, because the alternative S5 at Good Night Sleep Well is not free to play. Superimposition 5 of a 4-star limited light cone is very difficult to get. Assuming that you have the average luck, there are 3 light cones on the banner, 3 rate up, you get 1 each every 30 pulls. You basically need 150 pulls on the light cone banner to guarantee yourself, or on average, get a Superimposition 5, which is very hard. 150, you're basically guaranteed for the signature light cone, and you might as well go for that. So I'm not saying it's free to play, but this, if you have it for some reason, maybe you put on previous banners, is still a very, very solid light cone. You will come close to her signature light cone, but not really, as we talked about in the earlier segment too. So Good Night Sleep Well S5, probably the second best in my opinion. Out of all of them, what I think I would like is also In the Name of the World. You don't get massively good stats here. You do get a 24% damage increase, which is a little bit nice. Some hit rate, blah blah blah, attack increase. Not too critical in my opinion. What I like about this is definitely the high base attack that rivals the other limited 5-star light cones here at 582. So if you have this, consider using it temporarily if you don't have Good Night Sleep Well. I think the base stats of this one is pretty decent as well. Other than that, you will realize that free-to-play have very little options. What are the free-to-play light cones available to us? Solitary Healing with not that great attack stat. You have interesting amounts of like break effect here, but none of these are really usable. So Solitary Healing I think is out. You won't really want to use this. Fermata here, again, not very useful for her as well. The stats are also not very fantastic. So Fermata is also out. Its showtime could be interesting, especially if Crimson Knot from Acheron counts as a debuff, then maybe you can prop this additional 10%. But still, this is like nothing much considering that you're losing a lot of attack, you don't have that significant damage gain as well. So its showtime is also quite lackluster in my opinion. I think that a pretty solid one will be one like Resolution Shines or Pearls of Sweat, giving her a bit more utility to be able to like defense shred the enemies as well, especially if you don't have many options. At least you have some kind of defense shredding if you don't have Good Night Sleep Well. The other one that I was thinking about that is quite interesting will be We Will Meet Again. This light cone is hardly talked about, and because it's of course a battle pass Lightcone and before a nitty DPS, this kind of doesn't have too much use. But now with this, at least if you're a DPS, you get the 529 stats that Solitary Healing gives, and at the same time you also get additional damage every time she uses like basic attack or skill, which she will probably want to use to get the amount of charges up as well. So at least you get some kind of additional damage going on, much better than the not as significant damage dealing that is on. So you already get like 10% additional stats. On top of that, you get some damage on the side. So We Will Meet Again probably would be a close use that you can like temporarily use until you get a better like Goodnight Sleeper and stuff like that. But as you can see, not really too many options available. She's a character that wants her signature Lightcone, and Hoyoverse knows that as well. That's why they're trying to put this on the banner to get you to pull on the signature Lightcone banner. So you have no choice but to pick up one of these Goodnight Sleeper or the banner itself. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I think she's still a very solid character, although does require a little bit of investment. But hopefully this video and these thoughts help you make a pulling decision as well. I hope you get it early. Hope you get the Lightcone early if you're looking for it. And thank you guys so much for watching again. Like this video, comment for some good luck as well, and check out our other videos on the channel. See you in the next one.